So we are, to get us back up to speed here, we're in 2 Samuel chapter 7. David is crossing the Jordan River, and an entourage, several people, groups from Israel have gone. Remember, Israel is made up of 12 tribes. Jacob, I'll start with Abraham. Abraham was the first Jew. Abraham's son was Isaac. Isaac's son was Jacob. And Jacob had 12 boys. And those 12 boys make up the 12 tribes of Israel. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, etc. All those 12 sons make up what we call the 12 tribes of Israel. Each of these boys became a family, which became a clan, which became a tribal unit, and all of those make up the 12 tribes. So while David was king for the last 30 years, he's been king over all 12 tribes of Israel. But what we start to see here is a division in the tribes. We start to see on paper here in the narrative, in the story, that the 10 tribes in the north have a lot of problem with the true 2 tribes in the south. And we're starting to see that right here. But all of these 12 tribes are sending some sort of delegation, except for the 10 northern tribes, as we'll see in a minute, sending some sort of delegation to the river to welcome their king back into the land. But it's not easy. It's dirty. It's messy. Humans often make things messy, and this is a messy situation. Look at what I've written here. The 10 northern tribes want David to be king of Israel again after the death of Absalom, David's son, whose rebellious government overthrow they supported. See, that's messy. You can't get past one statement of this story without there being a mess. Wait a minute. The 10 northern tribes want David to be king of Israel. That's great. Well, they only want David to be the king of Israel because they were supporting his son, the conspirator, but he got killed. So let's go back to David. It's just a mess. It's a mess in Israel. And we start to see this split. David's own tribe, one of the 2 southern tribes, the tribe of Judah, is slow, even last. Not only slow, they're the last of the 12 tribes. This is David's own people, his own family. Even David's own tribe is slow to invite him back home to Jerusalem. David sends the high priests to Judah, to his tribe, to the elders and the people of Judah, to ask why they were last to bring him back. What is the holdup? Absalom has been killed. I am your people. I am the king for 35 years now. I'm ready to come back into Jerusalem. Why is it that you have not invited me back in? Why did the 10 tribes want this? Why does Benjamin want this? Why is my own people the last to come? So David has to help Judah make the decision to bring him back into the land. He offers, not only does he send the high priest to them to plead with them, hey, what's going on here? But he also offers to make Amasa, another one of his nephews, from the tribe of Judah. This should make them happy. Another Judahite will be the commander. He offers to make Amasa the commander of the army in place of Joab. All of David's commanders of his army were his nephews. And this is yet another nephew from another one of his half-sisters, Amasa. And this seems to work. It endears David to the tribe of Judah once again, and they accept him. They accept him and invite him back into Jerusalem. And what we saw last time is David travels to the Jordan River. He's on the east side of the river. It's a flowing river. He's got to get himself and all his people, his men, his wives, his families. Everybody has to cross the river. So a company of people from Israel meet David at the river to usher him across the river. Now think about like a flotilla of boats and rafts tied together so that David and his people can cross the river on dry boats, dry rafts. That's what's going on here. They have made some sort of flotilla that David and his army can walk across. And there are several different people from the company of David, from the company of Israel, that have come to do this to help him across. We saw this last time in 2 Samuel 19:15. It says, the king returned. This is David. The king returned and came as far as the Jordan River, and Judah came, his own tribe came, to Gilgal, this is the name of a city, in order to go to meet the king, to bring the king across the Jordan. We'll see in a while, this makes the 10 northern tribes irate, which is messy. Why are you mad that we're bringing the king across the river when you in your own, and the 10 northern tribes will soon say, it was our decision first to bring David back. But there's this strife, there's this ongoing strife that can't be taken away. And the strife here is that Judah went out to invite David across, but they didn't invite the 10 northern tribes. Let's make this a nationwide event. Let's make this a ceremony for all 12 tribes to be involved in. Judah didn't do that. He's their man. They went to get him themselves. And it will make the 10 northern tribes seethe, so much so that there will be another rebellion in chapter 20. Messy. We make things so messy, don't we? Among this company, just to show some of the names we looked at, this company of Jews that come to gather or to welcome their king back across the river, one of them, I'd love to tell the story again, I can't. One of them is this man Shimei, the son of Gerah, who is a Benjamite. He's from Saul's family. He's a Saulite. He's a Benjamite. He's not Judahite. He's not David's family. He's from the former king, Saul's family. He comes to the river. He's the one who threw stones at David as David was leaving Jerusalem. Didn't want David to be king anymore. And he comes to the river begging for his life. He's the one who says to David, "Let not my Lord consider me guilty. I have sinned." So he begs for his life. We saw that later, oh, there's the quote right there. Later, David on his deathbed will tell his son Solomon, "Kill him, will you?" On the day I crossed the river, I promised that I wouldn't kill him because the time wasn't right for that type of a killing. But Solomon, kill him. And so Solomon will kill Shimei. Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth, also comes to the river to welcome David. Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth, comes, but we aren't told that he says anything to David. We just see that he was in the procession. 1,000 men of Benjamin with him. So Shimei comes not only alone, not only with Ziba, but there are all these 1,000 men of Benjamin. This is the tribe of Benjamin's first move to endear themselves or to link themselves with Judah. And they will be linked with Judah for the next 500 years of Jewish history. Judah and Benjamin linked together, and the 10 northern tribes will soon be separated from them. This tribe, this grouping of Benjamin going, is their first linking to the tribe of Judah. Mephibosheth also comes, not only his servant Ziba, but Mephibosheth, the lame grandson of the late King Saul. He greets David with his own appeal. Shimei comes with an appeal, "I have sinned, don't kill me for it. I should not have thrown stones and hurled insults and all the rest. Please don't kill me for it." David says, "Okay, I won't, but I'll have my son do it." Mephibosheth comes with his own appeal, and his appeal is that I was tricked by Ziba. I was tricked by my servant, but fully support King David, and I always have. I'm on your side, David. We talked about that last time. And the end thing we talked about is David believes Mephibosheth. He believes him that he was tricked by Ziba, and David splits the holdings between Mephibosheth and his servant Ziba. And that's where that story ends. That brings us up to speed here. And now we hear about a different man. Another man in this company of Israel has gone to the Jordan River to usher David across on this flotilla. He's a faithful, loyal friend to David. His name is Barzillai. He's from Gilad, the city or the area east of the Jordan River known as Gilad. This is a Jewish man. And it says in verse 31, in 2 Samuel chapter 19, verse 31, we pick up right there. It says, now Barzillai the Gileadite had come down from Rogelim. Now this man was always east of the Jordan. He lives east of the Jordan. The Canaan, the land of promise, is west of the Jordan. But he's east of the Jordan, and when David fled east of the Jordan from his son Absalom, this man took care of him. It says, now Barzillai the Gileadite had come down from Rogelim, and he went on to the Jordan with the king to escort him over the Jordan. I'll walk with you, David. It's a beautiful relationship here these two men have. Verse 32 says, now Barzillai was very old, being 80 years old, and he had sustained the king, David, while he stayed in Mahanaim, for he was a very great man. Great here means wealthy. He's rich, exceedingly rich. And David and all his entourage of family and soldiers and all the rest of them were led in their care by this man, Barzillai, and the wealth that God had given him. It says here in the scripture that he's 80 years old and that he's a very old man. How old, somebody do the math here, think about what you know of the story of David. How old is David right now? This man is 80 years old and considers himself very old. David is at the end of his 40-year reign. How old was David when he became king of Israel? Do you remember the verse? We've gone over it, I've showed you. He was 30. He was 30 years old. He reigns for 40 years, and we're in about year 35, 36. So how old is he? He's almost 70. He's 65, 66. Just interesting to me that Barzillai says, I'm an old man, and looking at David, and David could say, well, I'm not too far behind you, guy. I'm no spring chicken either. David is 65, 66, 67 when this takes place. David breathes his last when he's 70 years old. Just an interesting thought there of how old these people are. It says that Barzillai was a rich man. Who made him rich? I mean, we live according to the scriptures always for such a time as this. God calls us into the world, in the era, in the period of the little brief blip of human history that we occupy. He calls us perfectly at the right time, just like He called Jesus. In the fullness of time, God sent forth His Son. It was at the proper, perfect, split second in time when Mary gave birth to Jesus. The same is true for when your mother gave birth to you. For such a time as this, we have been called into human existence. My question is, who gives us our standard of living here? Why is it that Barzillai, for such a time as he was needed to support David and all David's men, for all the months or the couple of months that David is outside of Jerusalem, has no government sustenance anymore. Nobody's bringing him meals every night. But Barzillai shows up. Did he just show up? Was it just coincidence that there happens to be a rich man near the city where David was going to hold up for these couple of months? Or was this all in God's plan all along? And even so much so that He brought Barzillai great, exceedingly great wealth for such a time as this. Because I know you, I know how you'll use it, and I know one day you'll be very generous with it, and you'll support my king, the anointed David. So who made Barzillai rich? God did. Philippians 4:19 says, my God will supply all your needs. This is an example of it. What are your needs? What is Barzillai's need on this day? His need is to support his king and his king's army. So he does it. God supplied his need, and his need here was to give to David in support. So God has made Barzillai wealthy, and Barzillai in turn chose to use his wealth. It was his decision, but he chose to use his wealth to support King David while he was in exile. Beautiful, beautiful story here. Verse 33, the king said to Barzillai, so Barzillai is escorting King David. The king says, cross over with me. After what you've done for me, let me do for you. Cross over with me. Live on government sustenance. Come in and out of my palace, you, your sons. Let me take care of you now. The king says, you cross over with me, and I will sustain you in Jerusalem with me. But Barzillai said to the king, how long have I yet to live? Back to this 80-year-old man. How long have I yet to live that I should go up with the king to Jerusalem? Be a hard journey for an old man. I'll get there. I'll die. I'm just not interested, David. In verse 35, he says again, I am now 80 years old. And then he says something that I know frustrate a lot of you. He speaks of the changing body that he's living in, the way that old men change. He said, can I distinguish between good and bad? I don't think like I once did. How many of you would raise your hands if I asked the question, do you think as keenly as you once did? That's what he says. It happens to us. He says, or can your servant, speaking of himself in the third party, or can your servant taste what I eat? How many of you would raise your hand if I said, do you taste as accurately as whatever the word would be as you once did? The changing body. Can I taste what I eat or what I drink? He says, or can I hear anymore the voice of singing men and women? How many of you can't hear like you could once hear? Very interesting. It happens to all of us. And then he says to David, why then should your servant be an added burden to my lord the king? I'm an old man going the way of old men. I don't want to travel with you, David. You've got things to do. You've got to reestablish the unity in the kingdom. You've got so many coals in the fire. The last thing you need is an aging old man. And so David responds, or he continues here. He says, your servant would merely cross over the Jordan with the king. I wouldn't live good life over there. I don't live great days now. Just let me go back home. I don't want to go across the river with you. He says, why should the king compensate me with this reward? Why would you set me in the palace? Why would you bring me, put me on government sustenance, bring me into your dining table with you and all those things? I'm just too old to enjoy it. I'm just beyond those years now. Very honorable man. Honest. Who wants to admit these things? Just honest, just tells it like it is. Another guy I can't wait to go find in heaven. In verse 37, he says, please let your servant, me, Barzillai, just let me return. I've escorted you to the river. All I want, Lord, is for you to know how much I love you, for you to know how much it pleased me to sustain my king while you were in my land, and how much it pleases me to see you enthroned as king over Israel again. That's all I want you to know. Let me go home. It says, please let your servant return that I may die in my own city near the grave of my father and my mother. Such an honorable man. I want to be laid to rest near my mother. I want to be laid to rest near my father in my hometown. I don't need an honor. I don't need you to make a name of me. I don't need a special ceremony when I die. I don't need a special tomb. I don't need a building named after me. I don't need any of it. What I've done, God will reward me for. I'm pleased to have done what I've done. Just let me go home in peace. That's all I want. But in his wisdom, he asks David to give this reward to someone else. He says, however, not an old man, but here is your servant Kimham. I think this is his son. I'll show you a verse in just a minute. We'll get to it like 2 verses down where it speaks of the sons of Barzillai. But Barzillai offers this man, don't do these things for me that you want to do, David, but if you would do them for him, it would please me. He says, here is your servant Kimham. Let him cross over with my king, the Lord the king, and do for him what is good in your sight. Please transfer the reward you want to give to me, transfer it to him. That's my request. And we aren't told here exactly who this man is, but I'm telling you, it very, very likely it is Barzillai's own son. The Jewish historian, maybe some of you know his name, Josephus. Josephus lived and wrote in the same time as the apostles Paul and all the rest of them. AD 35 to about AD 100, wrote the book, The Antiquities of the Jews, a great purveyor of fact. If you want to know early church history fact, Josephus is a great guy to read. And Josephus says this was Barzillai's son. So it was at least rabbinic tradition and Jewish tradition that this is who this man was. So David responds to Barzillai's request, take Kimham with you, let him have the blessings that you would bless me with. And the king answered, Kimham will cross over with me. You got it. Deal. You go home, you honorable man, and I'll take your son with me. And I will do for him what is good in your sight. Barzillai says, King, do what is good in your sight, King David. And David says, I will not. I will do what you want me to do. I will do what's proper in your sight, Barzillai. Whatever you require of me, I will do for him. Again, what a beautiful relationship between these two men. Verse 39 says, all the people crossed over the Jordan, and the king crossed too on this flotilla. The king then kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and he returned to his place, to his hometown near the grave of his father and his mother. King David would remember, just like he remembered Shimei, just like he remembered Joab, and he told his son Solomon on his deathbed, on David's own deathbed, speaking to his son Solomon, kill Shimei, kill Joab. He has something to say about this man Barzillai. 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 7. He says, but show kindness to the sons, like Kimham. Show kindness to the sons of Barzillai the Gileadite, and let them be among those who eat at your table. You invite them to the king's table regularly. They are my close, close friends. For they assisted me when I fled from Absalom, your brother. Barzillai the Gileadite, out of David's own mouth, bless his family always. Bless his sons and his sons' sons. May they always be friends of the king. And now we move away from that. In verse 40 it says, now the king went to Gilgal. He has crossed the Jordan River on the flotilla. He is in the promised land, the land of Canaan. Gilgal, by the way, is the very first place the Jews set foot in the promised land when they crossed the river with who? Behind whom? Who led the Israelites into the Jordan River? Moses? Who did it? Joshua did it. Joshua. The very first place they came to, where they took the 12 stones that they were commanded to gather from the center of the Jordan River and make this pile, this heap of stones, that when your sons and your daughters ask what happened here, you can remind them that the God, a creator God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, dried up the Jordan River so that we could cross on dry land. Those stones are in the city of Gilgal. And that's where they are here, just to give a little emphasis to what this city is. The king went to Gilgal, and Kimham went on with him. So Barzillai offered his son. The king said, I will take him. And now we see the fulfillment of it. Kimham is traveling with David into the promised land. And all the people of Judah David's own tribe and half the people of Israel accompanied the king. What we don't read about is those 10 tribes, but we're about to read about them in just a second. Because just as you would expect, the Jews found something to complain about here. We're lovers of Israel by command, but I can't imagine there's a people on earth that complain and moan and grumble more than the Jewish people. I'd like to say something there, but I'll take up too much time. In verse 41, the continuation of this split, this rift between the 10 northern tribes and the tribe of Judah. Later, the tribe of Benjamin. Here you have it. And behold, here's David, crosses the flotilla, dry land. He's got this wonderful last kiss with his friend Barzillai, this embrace, a blessing. We don't know what the blessing is. We don't have the words of the blessing David spoke to Barzillai, but it would have been wonderful and godly. We don't know it, but all these wonderful things have happened. The king is back on his way to Jerusalem, which is only like 15 miles away. But there's still a mess. Behold, all the men of Israel came to the king and said to the king, complaint. He hasn't been in the land 30 minutes and his complaint box is filling up. Why had our brothers, the men of Judah, stolen you away? Oh, the drama. It's so dramatic. Why had our brothers, the men of Judah, stolen you away and brought the king and his household and all David's men with him over the Jordan? The 10 northern tribes are accusing the one tribe of Judah of trying to sneak the king back into Jerusalem and gain special favor with him. We're the 10 tribes. We're more in number than the one tribe. Why does this one tribe get this special thing for them? Why did they get invited to bring you across the river? It should have been all of Israel. It's like, oh my goodness, stop. But some people will complain about anything, and here you have it. They're upset simply that they weren't invited to this party of ushering the king across the river into the promised land, and are convinced that Judah is up to no good. That the tribe of Judah is trying to get something special, some favor from the king, because that's who those people are. Oh, God, the drama. I got to take a drink. Wow. Then all the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, oh, you want to fight? They're so good at this. I heard a Jew tell me once, if you ask three, I don't remember, the numbers don't matter. If you ask 3 Jews their opinion, you'll get 4 answers. Always fighting people, ready to go with their tongues. Some of us inherited that trait also. All the men of Judah answered the men of Israel. Okay, you made an accusation against us, let us speak. Because the king, why did we go to the river? Because we're his tribe. Because the king is a close relative to us. What else needs to be said? He's our uncle, he's our cousin, he's our brother, he's our nephew. Of course we're going to go when our king comes back into the land. He's a close relative. Why then are you angry about this matter? And then they face the allegation of this special treatment that we're looking for. They say, have we eaten it all at the king's expense? I mean, you tell us. You show the receipts. Where's the proof? When is it that the king has shown more favor to the tribe of Judah than any of the other tribes of Israel? In the 35 or 36 years he's been king, he hasn't done this. Have we eaten it all at the king's expense, or has anything been taken for us? The answer is no. He's a fair king, always has been, always will be. But you people will complain about anything, won't you? Verse 43 says, but the men of Israel, that can't be a good enough answer. Got to keep the fight going. The men of Israel answered the men of Judah, and they said, we have 10 parts in the king. Therefore, we also have more claim on David than you. There's more of us than there is Judah. And Judah is saying, we've done nothing wrong. You're building a mountain out of a molehill here. You continue to accuse us of something. If there's proof of that, bring it out. There is no proof because it's not happened, because David's an honorable king, but yet you double down here. And now the 10 tribes say, we have a greater share of King David because there's 10 of us and only one of you. If anybody's going to get special treatment, it should be us. So by the time the next 45 years of human history go by, David will soon die. His son Solomon will be king for 40 years. At the end of Solomon's reign, when his son Rehoboam takes the throne and the kingdom splits, there will be no lost love between these groups. The 10 tribes, it's about time. The 2 tribes, thank the Lord. There will be no lost love. It's not going to be, oh, what are we going to do? We're divided now. It's going to be great. And you're seeing the beginning of the split of the kingdom. This rift is being formed right here on the pages of 2 Samuel chapter 19. So the men of Israel continue, we have more claim on David than you. There's 10 of us and only one of you. Why then did you treat us with contempt? Was it contempt? With hatred? You're telling us that we had a premeditated thought of hatred when we went to get David and bring him over the river? You're accusing us of not only currying favor with the king, but now you're accusing us of this hatred towards the rest of the kingdom. Treated you with contempt because we didn't invite you. Tuesday at 2 o'clock, we're bringing the king over the river. If you can make it, please come. I mean, this is crazy. Drama, drama, drama. Why was it not our advice first to bring back our king? That's a true statement. The 10 tribes wanted to bring David back first, even though they were supportive of Absalom. They were the first to say, Absalom's dead. What are we doing? We need a king. I guess we bring the old guy back in. That was the 10 tribes. They went first in that. And Judah had to be convinced of it by David sending the priests and making Amasa the commander of the army, remember? But then we have this interesting phrase. It says, yet the words of the men of Judah were harsher or fiercer than the words of the men of Israel. Judah silenced their critics on this day. We don't have the rest of the conversation, but Judah silenced, they won the argument, they silenced the 10 tribes, which will immediately lead us to chapter 20 and another revolt. Drama. Look at what it says in chapter 20. In the group, remember the original, all capital letters, no chapter breaks, one letter after another, right to left. This is Hebrew, right to left, all caps, no vowels, no chapter breaks, no verse breaks. So chapter 20, somebody chose to, okay, we'll stop the story here and start it. We'll put a new chapter, but the story continues. It's the exact same event, same place. It says in verse 1 of chapter 20, we are now in 2 Samuel chapter 20, verse 1. Now a worthless fellow happened to be there. Where's the there? The city of Gilgal. Right on the edge of the Jordan River. A worthless fellow happened to be there at Gilgal, whose name was Sheba. And Sheba, it says, he's the son of Bichri, a Benjamite. So this Benjamite joins in with the 10 tribes. 1,000 men of Benjamin have just come minutes ago to help David get across the river, and now one of their own stands up and says, we won't have this. A reason to fight. Some people, oh man, some people you give them any reason for a quarrel and the fight is on. Just live for it. To get agitated by someone and then they pounce. And here's this guy, Sheba. There's a reason for it. The 10 tribes are mad. I'm going to lead a revolt. I'm mad too. When his people, the Benjamites, are trying to be friends with David, this guy stands up and says, you want to fight? I'll lead it. I'm not even one of you. I'm not even part of the 10 tribes, but I'll fight with you. I'll lead you in a fight. Crazy people. We're all crazy people, aren't we? So this worthless fellow is there. He's listening to the 10 tribes argument. He's not even one of them, but he agrees or gives himself as their leader. He blew the trumpet and he said, we have no portion in David. He won't be our king. Nor do we have inheritance in the son of Jesse. That's David, another name for David, the son of Jesse. Every man to his tents, O Israel. So he calls the grouping there to dissipate. Everybody go home, go to your tents. We're going to organize something. I'll let you know how it happens, how it works. And we're going to fight this. David will not be our king. We just got him across the river. So all the men of Israel withdrew from following David. We just got him across the river. And now you have the 10 tribes led by a Benjamite who are against David, want to fight, want a different king. And the tribe of Judah alone in the south. It says, so all the men of Israel withdrew from following David and followed Sheva, another conspirator like Absalom, the son of Bichri. But the men of Judah remained steadfast to their king from the Jordan even to Jerusalem. Seems as if they protected the entourage. As the entourage is moving this 15 or 20 miles from Mount Nebo. Who died on Mount Nebo? Moses did. Mount Nebo is at the very northern tip of the Dead Sea. It's right in the plains of Moab. Obviously not a plain, it's a mountain. This is where God brought Moses up to the top. Look at all the land. From Mount Nebo, I've stood there, and there's this bronze half circle that has all these arrows going out to different cities. And it gives the mileage of all these different Jewish cities. Tel Aviv over there, Jerusalem over here, 26 miles. I just remembered that number, 26 miles on Mount Nebo. From Mount Nebo at the Jordan River, basically, from the Jordan River to Jerusalem, 26 miles. That's the distance we've traveled here. The tribe of Judah, David's own tribe, remain with him in protection of him as he travels that 26 miles from the Jordan River to Jerusalem. But boy, the peace didn't last long, did it? I mean, you don't even need a calendar to talk about how long the peace lasted. It didn't last a day, a single day. David's not even back in Jerusalem yet, and Israel is in civil war again. Crazy, crazy, crazy. 10 tribes have found new loyalty, or their newfound loyalty in David has been crushed. They shifted to Sheba. We're going to follow this guy. So what, he's going to be the king? A Benjamite? Only because they were, well, let's keep going. Verse 3, then David came to his house at Jerusalem. The king took the 10 women. So this is an aside here. Remember the 10 concubines? When David left Israel, he left 10 of his own concubines behind to take care of the palace, maintain the palace. When Absalom became king, one of the things he did was set up a tent on the roof in the viewing of all of Israel. So he went into all of David's 10 concubines. He had sex with all the concubines to show there's a new sheriff in town. I'm taking my father's authority by taking his household unto myself. Well, David has to do something with these 10 women. They have been, I don't know what the word is, perverted, made unclean. I don't know what the phrase is, but David does something about the 10 women, and we read about it in verse 3. David came to his house at Jerusalem, and the king took the 10 women, the concubines, whom he had left to keep the house, and he placed them under guard and provided them with sustenance. He treated them honorably. He simply would not use them as concubines again. He would never go in and lay with them again. He did not go into them, the scripture says. So they were shut up until the day of their death, living as widows. So he provided for them, but I don't want to get into it too much. They were still his legal concubines, but did not serve in that capacity. So one verse talks about the concubines, and that's it. That's how David handled them honorably, took care of them, put them in their own places in the palace. That's that. Verse 4. David has to do something about Sheva. Sheva has told all of Israel, go to your tents. I'm going to lead a revolt. I'll let you know how this goes soon. David has to track this guy down. So the king says to Amasa, who's Amasa? He's David's nephew, who is the new commander of the army of the tribe of Judah. Another one of David's nephews. He's the new commander of the army in place of Yoav. And so the king gives him orders. This is what he says to his nephew Amasa. Call out the men of Judah for me. Muster the troops. Gather the army. Call out the men of Judah for me within 3 days. He gives them a time. I need this done in 3 days. I need the army ready to roll, ready to march. And be present here yourself. So gather the army and come to me in 3 days. Verse 5, it says, so Amasa went to call out the men of Judah, but he delayed. He couldn't get it done in 3 days. He delayed longer than the set time which he had appointed him. So what happens now after 3 days? David calls out who? Another nephew. David calls out Abishai. In verse 6 it says, David said to Abishai. This is crazy, isn't it, all these names? I wish it was Tom, Dick, and Harry. It'd be easier to remember. When you get into Abishai and Asahel and Yoav and Amasa, it's like, oh man, I can't remember who they are. But this is Yoav's brother. This is Yoav's brother. There were 3 brothers, Yoav, Asahel, who was killed earlier, and Abishai. So David, I don't know what happened to this Amasa, but he's not back with the troops. So forget nephew Amasa. I need this done, Abishai. So David calls Abishai, and he says to him, now Sheva, the son of Bichri, will do more harm to us than Absalom. This needs to be dealt with right now. We cannot wait. Take your Lord's servants and pursue him. Gather who you can and go track him down, this Sheva, so that he does not find for himself fortified cities and escape from our sight. So David has placed Abishai, another nephew, in charge of this battle to go find this man Sheva and kill him. Stop this revolt. So Yoav's men, verse 7, Yoav is still alive. He's just been displaced as the commander. So Yoav's men, he still has a group of men that are loyal to him. It says Yoav's men went out after him along with Yoav, right? You'll know that he's there in just a second. So Yoav is part of this entourage, this battle group, this formation of soldiers behind Yoav's brother Abishai. So Yoav's not the leader. He's not the head commander, but he goes out with them because he's a killer. He's a murderer. And he's got a plan of his own here. So Yoav's men went out after Abishai, along with the Kerethites and the Pelethites and all the mighty men. And they went out from Jerusalem to pursue Sheva, the son of Bichri. And now we see the murder. When they were at a large stone which is in Gibeon, Amasa came to meet them. Oh, Yoav's men and Yoav are here. We finally find Amasa again, the new commander. Amasa came to meet them, and Yoav, it says, was dressed in his military attire. Dress whites, we'll call them. And over it was a belt with a sword in its sheath. fastened at his waist. We would call that a holster, and we'd have Colt 45s in it in the Wild West. But he had a belt on with the scabbard with the sword in it. Now, just tell me the answer to this question. Are there more right-handed people in this world or left-handed? So the military men in Israel, just like in every other age, would pick up their sword, grab it, and fight with the sword in which hand? In their right hand. That's the problem here. Right hand versus left hand. Amasa, who's about to be killed, is a trained military fighter. But Yoav catches him off guard. These are all military men. I think gladiator. I mean, you don't become the commander of an army because you become a commander of the army because you can kill and fight. These are fierce men. So Amasa came to meet. Yoav was dressed in his attire. He had a belt with the sword in its sheath. And as he went forward, it fell out. All according to plan. The sword falls out, and look what hand he picks the sword up with. Yoav said to Amasa, "Is it well with you, my brother?" So he catches him off guard. He gives this peaceful, hey, no hard feelings. I know King David made you commander in my place, but I've had a long enough run. Be well and prosper. This is one of these kinds of statements that Yoav states or uses here. Is it well with you, my brother? That's a heck of a statement to ask somebody that you're about to kill. Yoav took Amasa by the beard with his right hand to kiss him. That's formal greeting, kiss, both cheeks. But he grabs the man with his right hand. So what does Amasa think? Yeah, I saw the sword fall too. But his right hand is his fighting hand. And he's embracing me with his right hand. We truly are at peace. He does want to know if everything is well with me, and he's giving me what even later the Apostle Paul will call the kiss of peace. But Amasa was not on guard because Yoav is brilliant. Amasa is not on guard against the sword which was in Yoav's left hand. So Yoav struck him in the belly with it and poured out his inward parts on the ground and did not strike him again, and he died. Embraces him with the right hand, goes in for the kiss. After these flowery words of friendship and love and camaraderie, and he murders him. Then Yoav and Abishai, his brother, pursued Sheva, the son of Bichri. So who's the commander now? David had made his nephew Amasa the commander. Amasa's just been murdered. Who's the leader now? What a mess. Just mess. It's just messy. All this Jewish history just becomes messy from here until the days Jesus steps on earth. It's all a mess. And when Jesus got here, they made it even more of a mess. There stood by him, so here's Yoav, who's just killed the commander, but Yoav was the commander last week. It's just a disaster. There stood by him one of Yoav's young men, and he decides that he's going to make this proclamation. Whoever favors Yoav as the commander of the army in place of this slain man, whoever favors Yoav and whoever is for King David, let him follow Yoav. So just like that, Yoav has made himself the commander of David's army again. You got to hand it to him. He's brilliant. He's a brilliant murderer. We'll close here with 2 verses. David again on his deathbed, very end of his life, speaking to his son Solomon, giving words about different people, how to handle these people. And this is about this man, Yoav, the murderer. David says, Yahweh will return his blood on his own head, because he fell upon 2 men more righteous and better than he, and killed them with the sword, while my father David did not know it. Solomon speaking, I guess. Abner the son of Ner, these are the two men. Abner the son of Ner, the commander of the army of Israel, and Amasa the son of Yether, commander of the army of Judah. He fell on them, he killed them. They were better men, more righteous men than him, but he murdered them. And he says, so shall their blood return on the head of Joab, the blood of the two murdered men. Their blood shall return on the head of Joab and on the head of his descendants forever. Not only did he destroy himself, he destroyed his family. There's a curse put on his whole family. But to David, in contrast to the curse, but to David and his descendants and his house and his throne, may there be peace from the Lord forever. Consequences to what Joab did. We'll find out what the army did after this with Sheba and his revolt. We'll find out next week. Let's close in prayer.